Think about a massive, heavy truck hauling cargo down the highway. Now compare that to the smartphone you use to send a quick message. Building that truck requires massive factories, intense heat, and tons of physical steel. Your phone, on the other hand, weighs almost nothing. The apps running inside it are made of invisible code, created entirely by human thought. Right now, East Africa is working hard to build both of these things. We are manufacturing our own vehicles with companies like Kira Motors, and we are growing our own digital tech hubs. To do both successfully, we can learn a lot from the places that originally perfected these two completely different industries. We are going to look at two distinct regions in the United States: the Great Lakes, a powerhouse of heavy metal and machines, and Silicon Valley, the global capital of computers and the internet. Seeing how these two American regions evolved helps explain the specific choices Uganda is making for its own industrial path. Let's start with the Great Lakes region: Huron, Ontario, Michigan, Erie, and Superior, on the US-Canada border. It had the perfect recipe for building large things: huge iron ore deposits to the north and vast amounts of coal in the southern mountains. Those raw materials are extremely heavy and expensive to move by land, but the Great Lakes provided a free, natural water highway. Massive ships easily transported thousands of tons of iron and coal across the water. When you combine iron and coal under extreme heat, you get steel. Because they could transport materials so cheaply, giant steel mills grew along the shores of the lakes, establishing the ultimate foundation for heavy industry. That steel was then fed directly into nearby cities like Detroit. Using the metal produced next door, Detroit built enormous assembly lines, becoming the car manufacturing capital of the world. This system even applied to food. Nearby agricultural belts grew immense amounts of corn, which fed millions of cattle. Those cattle were brought to cities like Chicago, feeding massive meatpacking and processing plants. The Great Lakes region showed that having abundant physical resources, matched with cheap water transport, is a highly effective way to kickstart a nation's wealth and create millions of jobs. But eventually, the noise of those great factories went quiet. Many of these massive buildings closed down, leaving entire cities with high unemployment and empty, rusting buildings, a place people now call the Rust Belt. The first reason for this decline was simple geography. The easiest coal and iron to reach was eventually dug up and used. Mining deeper into the earth became far too expensive to keep the factories profitable. The second reason was global competition. Countries in Asia built newer, highly efficient factories and paid lower wages. They began producing cars and steel at a much lower cost than the American factories could manage. The empty factories of the Great Lakes show that relying completely on digging up finite resources and manual labor leaves an economy deeply vulnerable. Once the materials become scarce, or a competitor does the physical work cheaper, the wealth dries up. While heavy industry was struggling in the Great Lakes, a completely different type of economy was growing on the west coast of the United States, in an area of California known as Silicon Valley. First, we have to correct a common misunderstanding. Silicon is the material used to make computer chips, but there are no massive silicon mines in California. This industry does not dig anything out of the dirt. It is built almost entirely on writing software and creating ideas. While heavy manufacturing needs raw iron and coal, high-tech industry requires skilled human brains. Silicon Valley grew next to world-class universities, producing brilliant graduates. It also utilizes venture capital, investor money specifically funding risky, highly innovative ideas like new ride-sharing apps. This physical environment looks completely different. Instead of loud, smoke-filled steel mills, the actual work happens in clean electronics labs and quiet office spaces. This shift shows that while physical resources are limited by geography, a tech-based economy can grow anywhere there are people with the skills to solve modern problems. Now let's bring these lessons back to Uganda. Our current efforts to process iron ore in Kabale and manufacture vehicles are exactly like the historical Great Lakes. We are building the physical muscle of our economy. We absolutely need this heavy muscle to build roads, cities, and infrastructure. But the empty factories of the American Rust Belt stand as a warning. We cannot rely entirely on extracting physical resources forever. To secure our long-term future, we must also build our economic brain. That means actively supporting spaces like Kampala's Innovation Village, where young developers are writing code and building digital startups. To make that happen, Uganda needs to invest heavily in technology education. We have to train our students in software development, and we need local investors willing to provide venture capital to young entrepreneurs who have great ideas. As global competition grows, relying on a single resource is too risky. A strong economy has to adapt and diversify, balancing heavy industry with high-tech innovation. Digging minerals provides the raw materials to build a nation today,